Welcome on in, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, over to Settling the Kingdom here with Mike Settle running it solo, of course, with you guys. Glad to be back with you guys here to talk some NFL draft recap and some of my thoughts I had about what the Kansas City Chiefs accomplished in this draft. Not only that, but what we've seen now the last couple of days, the additions that have been made. Justin Ross, Clemson wide receiver, now a part of the roster, undrafted free agent, as well as a trade for Lonnie Johnson from the Texans as well, adding even more depth to that cornerback position. Guys, first and foremost, though, I just want to say this year's NFL draft was interesting to me because I just felt like day one, I wasn't as optimistic as your average Chiefs fan. We walked into this draft and with having two picks, I thought for sure you could take a stab at Kaiir Elam from Florida. I thought Jermaine Johnson slid far enough to potentially go get him, and the Chiefs ended up going to get Trent McDuffie instead. That was not necessarily the guy I wanted. I like a little bit of a bigger corner, and I think he's going to end up fitting well on this team. That's no longer my issue, but I still don't understand the George Karlaftis pick. I don't know if I ever will, especially in a situation where the Chiefs needed guys who can bring in outside speed rush pressure. And I don't feel that we still have that on this team at the moment. But with that said, maybe this guy can develop a little more. I did not like his production a lot at Purdue. A guy that just had, 4.5 sacks last year, 2 sacks the year before. Just not really having a lot to put on paper. Great physical attributes, of course. I don't know if that's always going to translate to the NFL game. Everything is so fast. And I just thought there was better guys on the board. All right, guys, now that I got my negativity out of the way here, let's get to the good stuff. God, what Brett Veach did on days 2 and 3 is phenomenal. My goodness. Going and get Leo Chenal, the linebacker, just what a pickup. The guy is just an absolute physical freak, 6'3", 250 pounds, ran a 4.5, 34 reps on the bench press, and ended up having one of the top 2 linebacker athletic scores of the past, I think it was something like 30 years. That's just absolutely insane to think about. And he was graded as the number 1 run-stopping linebacker in the entire nation last year. So I felt like third round came around, got a steal there. Skye Moore ended up falling to the Chiefs at pick number 54 after the Chiefs traded back. And when the Chiefs traded back, I think we all were concerned because I think most fans probably wanted George Pickens, myself included. I'm a huge fan of George Pickens. The upside is enormous with this guy. Now, of course, there is probably a lower floor with George Pickens due to some of the immaturity issues. And, the Steelers grabbed him there at pick number 52. Nothing we can do about that now. Skye Moore is now a Chief, and Skye Moore also with Pro Football Focus's number 1 rated wide receiver. Guy runs amazing routes. I mean, he's not big. He's not a big guy. I mean, you're looking at 5'9" and 3/4, somewhere around 180 pounds. Great hands, though. Ended up having the biggest hands in the combine for all wide receivers. So even despite that size, still huge hands and great catch rate, too. So this is somebody that can absolutely work in this system that's going to thrive with someone like Patrick Mahomes getting him the ball. I foresee him being a guy that runs a lot of those underneath routes and is just getting open, picking up easy between 5 to 8 yards anytime you get him the ball underneath. Just great separation. With that said, what happened when the Chiefs traded back is something I think not everyone has thought about yet. So the Chiefs essentially punted on George Pickens, in my opinion, by giving up 50 to go back to 54. But in that turn, they also got a 5th-round pick, something they did not have going into day 3. And when that happened, that's when the Chiefs took the best tackle in the SEC of the past year. And when I say he's the best, literally the best when it comes to run blocking and pass blocking. Both of those things top-notch and was first-team All-SEC. How the hell does a guy like that fall all the way to the 5th round? Well, supposedly he's worked and had a partially torn meniscus that he's, still, I guess, fully recovered from, but he let it heal naturally. He's not a big fan of surgeries if you don't need them. Nothing wrong with that. But I don't know. I'm still confused about why this could have happened. And now 2 years in a row, Brett Veach goes out and gets a SEC stud for the right side of the offensive line. I think Kennard's going to step in and be your starting right tackle from day one over Andrew Wiley. And let's not even get started on Lucas Niang on this team. Lucas Niang is probably going to have a hard time making this roster at this point just due to his injury history. But, man, Kennard walks into this situation and he's angry. He's pissed off. And the crazy thing about this pick, too, is that he actually said that out of the 30 teams he visited, the Chiefs were not one of them. What are the odds of that? Obviously, there was something there that other teams shied away from, but maybe in this case, the Chiefs, maybe not having as much close contact with him, ended up letting them go, hey, why the hell is this guy still here? Let's just get him and plug him in. And he's angry. He was being told, going into the draft, he was going to be at least a second-round pick. And here we are getting him in the 5th. So what a steal by Brett Veach. And then, of course, got another few guys on there. I like Jalen Watson as well. Bigger corner, more athletic. I like adding to the grouping of corners. You can never have too many good corners. I hope that when cut day comes along in training camp, the Chiefs have a hard time making decisions on who to keep and who to get rid of. And one of my other favorite ones, at pick number 62, Brian Cook from Cincinnati. I think people also kind of overlook Cincinnati as well. I mean, that was one of the top 5 teams in college football this past season. And, yeah, Sauce Gardner, great corner. But you know who was playing on the back end of Sauce Gardner? It was going to be Brian Cook, hardest-hitting safety in the entire league. And you're bringing attitude to this defense, man. I might not care for George Karlaftis as our pick, but he's also not a very nice man either. I mean, we're looking, and Leo Chenal is an angry guy. Kennard is an angry guy. And then you got Brian Cook out there just laying people out. One of the better tacklers I've seen in this entire class as well. It's absolutely phenomenal, the approach that they took this year. Going back to last year, the Chiefs had this all offensive line approach. And that was great. It worked out phenomenally. We got stars all over the place after that draft. Right away, taking the best center there from Oklahoma, plugging him in, and now we have ourselves, right away, the best center in football according to Pro Football Focus. That's just incredible. Creed Humphrey's going to be on this team for a long, long time. I mean, we're looking at this guy being our center here in Kansas City for at least 10 years. At least I'm hoping so. I thought Mitch Morse would stick around a little longer, but, sometimes things don't work out. But still at the same time, when you have a guy like Patrick Mahomes as your quarterback, you want to keep that longevity and chemistry going between center and quarterback. And having someone as smart as Creed Humphrey on your team just goes a long ways towards getting that offensive line gelling. And with that said, I mean, Trey Smith right there, Joe Tooney, of course, Orlando Brown Jr., who we're hoping can keep developing and becoming a more all-around solid left tackle. Guys, this whole structure of this team now can go multiple different directions offensively. This team can obviously pass block well. They can run block incredibly well now. And if you're Ronald Jones or Clyde Edwards-Helaire right now, you just got to be excited about what you have to work with up in front of you. And you're also hoping that, is there any chance that Andy Reid can start, mixing in a few more run plays here and there, maybe a few more stretches, maybe just a few more things to get that offensive line getting downhill on these defenses in the league. Because when you're facing some of these big, nasty guys, it is not going to be fun if you're an NFL defensive lineman or linebacker for that matter. And I'm just excited to see how this plays out, because whether or not they wouldn't become more of a run-oriented team, it remains to be seen. But we're going to not assume that's the case, because it's never been something Andy Reid's ever done in his life. He is always going to be a pass-happy, pass-first guy. But when we get to the goal line, when you're inside the 3-yard line, my goodness, just give it to Ronald Jones here and let him punch it in. It's going to be 6 points every time at this point. I mean, it's going to be. We got an offensive line right now, It's not as good as the 2003, half of Hall of Famers offensive line of Willie Roaf and Will Shields and Casey Wegman and Brian Waters. It's not that good, but damn, it's pretty damn close. And with these guys getting, maturing over time, and maybe 2-3 years from now, they develop even more. Then yeah, it's very possible that the Chiefs could have an offensive line that it comes close to rivaling what they had, here in town just 20 years ago. But anyways, I just think attitude is what we're coming away with from this draft. I think that you just got guys that are hungry, want to win, seems to be high character players, and a pissed off attitude, which, they took so many defenders, and you want to have defenders that have a little bit of an edge to them and screw loose. And, Leo Chenal just likes to hurt people. And he had 8 sacks last year from the linebacker position. You're now looking at a linebacker group that has incredible speed across the board. Willie Gay is one of the better athletes at linebackers in the league. Nick Bolton was a great run defender last year. And even then, back at Mizzou, was rated as the number 1 coverage linebacker in college football. Now, we haven't seen quite enough of that yet, but man, these 3 across the board now at linebacker, huge upgrade over what we saw this last year. And, Ben Neiman is now off the team. Daniel Sorensen is off the team. And you are now getting guys in there that are young and hungry and physical. Oh, it's going to be a sight to see. And, whenever the first round of this draft came out, I thought about, obviously the name of the show is Settling the Kingdom. And I'm like, man, I'm going to have to be the one being settled now this time. Normally I'd want to be your voice of reason and try to get everyone to understand that everything's going to be okay. After day 1, I was the one having a hard time coping with the fact that they passed over Jermaine Johnson and Boye Mafe to take George Karlaftis. And yeah, I know what Pro Football Focus says. I know that scouts had him rated high, and a lot of that literally is just due to his size. He presents great size, great upside. Well, upside's cool. I want production. And he's my one guy that I cannot wait, and I hope I'm wrong about. Otherwise, this draft was superb. And everything that Brett Veach did on days 2 and 3 deserves an automatic A+. You're changing the shape and culture of the defense as we speak. And as I said in the beginning of the show here, adding Lonnie Johnson from the Texans, a former second-round pick from Kentucky, 6'2", 210-pound corner. That's exactly the kind of guys that I would love to bring in. We brought him in for a 7th-round pick, guys. You're giving up nothing to get a guy that you can still work with and make him a project of your own, potentially to be on this field and, be a starter even, if things go the right way. So it's just what Brett Veach has done is phenomenal. And then, as I stated earlier too, Justin Ross, wide receiver from Clemson, obviously had a vertebrae fusion issue that was taken care of a few years ago, and then coming off now another injury. I've heard that he's on the right track to be ready for training camp. He's going to be ready, and this was a guy that when he was a freshman was looked at as a future first-round pick. 6'4", 205 pounds, really has a body similar to AJ Green. If we can just get this guy to where he's healthy, and he doesn't need to play every down, but get him a few snaps, there's a chance he could make this roster if he stands out in preseason. So it's a no risk, all reward move, and it's incredible that we're in this situation. And man, all I can say is I'm really excited for training camp. I'm excited for the season to get going. I'm excited for the schedule to come out. I'm excited to hear about rookie mini camps coming up here in this next week, something that we'll probably touch on coming up on our Sports Buffoons podcast at some point. Maybe not this Wednesday, but the Wednesday after. We can start looking into how things are looking for these guys. And we'll just keep it rolling like that, guys. So anyways, I give this draft, in the end, a B. A B. That is my pessimistic grade on the draft. But I mean, you're looking at some A-plus upside if things go the right way. My only knock, like I said, Karlaftis, not my guy. Trent McDuffie wasn't necessarily my guy either. But, hey, I'd love to be wrong. With that said, guys, I will see y'all on the next one.